This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
I somewhat jokingly said that our next guest would have preferred being in tonight's game. I don't think I was really joking. Dan Mullen was the head coach of the #1 team in the country for a good bit of this season. Even after losing to Alabama, had a shot at getting back into the playoff. Coach, I appreciate you being with us. You'll be part of the mega cast tonight, and I know you're looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a neat experience, kind of get a coach's perspective of what's going on in the game.
Yeah, I've done a few of these, and I could have used a coach in the room, considering how little former players know what they know, but they don't know what a coach knows. And I do want to get your thoughts, because you've been part of national championships, you've been part of preparation for national championships, but they keep saying nothing like tonight. Do you really think tonight is going to be different than what Florida saw early in your career and what Urban has seen a couple of times?
You don't know. I think it's just a little different schedule, a little different routine with, playing this game off of only, 12 days rest for the teams, or 10 days rest, whatever it's been. It is a little different because, the other past national championships, you're talking about a bowl game where you've got to be refocused after not playing for about a month. Sometimes as far as 6 weeks. And, so I think it is a little bit different that way. But the stage, I don't know, is any different than the national championship games in the past.
Yeah, I wonder about that because, we always like to hype whatever is next as the biggest ever. And this is the biggest ever. We've never had a college football playoff before. But when you prepare, and as you have for that first game, or the only game, I guess, in the case of your involvement at Florida, do you feel it? Does it seem different than just another big bowl game on New Year's Day or on New Year's Eve?
Yeah, it always had. I got to do it 2 times, and both of them feel different. A lot of times your bowl experience that you get out there, you're there to celebrate the season. You're doing all the different bowl activities and festivities. And when you get into this national championship game, it's a very, very different feel. Even the set of the bowl is just different.
Coach, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or maybe the league in the room that isn't there tonight, and that's of course the SEC. It seems some are taking it very hard, some are shrugging it off and saying, hey, 7 out of 8 or 7 out of 9 is still a pretty good record. For those who are quickly and compellingly writing the SEC off, how would you answer them?
Well, I think anytime you look at this season, there's a lot of great football teams out there. And what makes the SEC special is the depth of the league. And I know there's been a great run of teams competing national championships. Now this will be the second year in a row an SEC team has not won the national championship. But I don't think that takes away from the league. I think when people look at it, it's just the quality, the depth of the league. But when you look, there's great teams in every league around the country. And there's 2 great teams playing for the championship tonight.
Coach, in terms of, and we apologize for some audio problems you may be having. I hope you're not getting music in your ear, or at least the Alabama or Ole Miss fight song. But let me let me ask you, in terms of one line I heard just a few minutes ago from a caller. Hey, the SEC cannibalized itself. That's why they weren't as up to par or excelling in the bowl games. You've heard that. Is it true?
I don't know that that's the case. I think you just, you look at that the teams that the SEC played in playoff games played a lot of quality teams, and the only league to get 3 teams in playoff games, and so when you look at that stuff, it is what it is. There's a lot of great quality teams around there. I think what makes the SEC special is the depth of the league, and the overall talent in the league, the top teams in the SEC. We know they can play with top teams in every league in the country, but I think the reverse is true. I think the best team in all the different leagues, they can compete with SEC teams. I think when people talk about the strength of the SEC, though, it's just there's so much depth within the league that makes it different.
Coach, in terms of your own team, Dak Prescott has not given a declarative statement, or maybe he has to you, on what he is going to do next year. Talk a little bit about him and what the future looks like.
Well, I think it looks really bright for us. I think Dak, whether he decides to come back or whether he decides to leave to go to the NFL, it certainly made an impact on our program, has really set a new standard for us. And in the future, I think that bar's been raised at Mississippi State.
As far as the finish to the season, you're probably tired of talking about it, but with a little bit of time to reflect, it's been 12 or 13 days since you played last. You were number one in the country, and then a couple of losses, to say the least. Have you been able to put your finger on it other than mistakes?
Well, that's what it is. I mean, you got to play at a very, very high level. I think, we finished up, you look at the tail end of the season, we fall down to Alabama 19-0 in the first quarter and then outscore them the rest of the game 20-6 from that point forward. And, that slow start hurt us there. But you look at games and, when you really go back and study, the games that you make plays in, the games that the coaches won, we put our players in a position to go make plays and be successful in. And then the players go out, execute at a high level, and they make those plays. There's a lot of one-on-one opportunities in the game. When you make those plays, those are games you're going to win. When you lose some of those one-on-one opportunities, you're going to come out on the back end of that.
In terms of the future, certainly it was an amazing year. Regardless of how it ended, being number one for a number of weeks, having the state, the attention of the world, at least of college football, shined on your program and your state. What will your final takeaway be from this season in relation to that?
Well, you look back. Everybody wants to end their season. You're playing in the SEC. You want to play that first week in December in Atlanta. We weren't able to do that. And now everybody wants to have the opportunity to get to the playoffs, and that didn't happen for us. But, overall, I think we had a very successful season. We had a lot of firsts that have never happened before in school history. And I think we've really changed the standard and changed, how people view Mississippi State football and really the standard within our program of what we can expect moving forward in the future.
Coach, in relation to tonight, certainly you've been with Urban on two big stages, many more than two, but two national championship stages. You certainly have looked at both of these squads. You can't help but have done that. How would you break down the game, at least up until the kickoff?
You know what? It's going to be a pretty exciting game. One thing that you look at is what team kind of handles the moment better. That team that's going to go out there, make plays, play their game, not play tight. But be able to go out there and perform at a high level. And a lot comes down to the quarterback play. You look at the quarterback for Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl, outperformed Sims from Alabama. And in that play, and even though he was inexperienced, he came in, he made the plays and made the good and the plays. He didn't create the bad plays, throwing some balls away and taking care of the football. That really helped them come out on top. And, you look the same in the Florida State-Oregon game where, Oregon comes out, executes offensively at a high level, and Florida State makes some mistakes, makes some turnovers, and really turns the tide of that game. So, the team that can execute and play their best football is the team that's going to come out on top.
Coach, we'll be watching tonight on the multiple platforms and see how you break this game down live on television. We're putting a clock to your analysis.
Well, thank you. I expect you to give me a good evaluation from the media side of things tomorrow.
I'm a huge fan. You know that, Coach. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great to be with you, Paul.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Larry, a lot of people are getting tired of Alabama fans whining about what happened on January 1st.
Oh, man, you know what? Hey, I don't hear us whining. I hear them dang Yankees whining. Big Ten John. Are you from the Phillies? Hey, man, are you from the Phillies?
Why are you? Hey, let me ask you a question, Larry. Why are you using a Jamaican accent to make fun of somebody from Philly?
Well, I thought it was Yankee. Ever how they talk, Finebaum. Heck, I don't.
Are you from Philly, Mon?
They talk weird, man.
No, John, Larry. They don't talk weird in Philly. They talk like people from Philly.
Well, whatever. Philly chicken.
Weird to someone from Philly is listening to someone from Shelby County, Alabama. That's weird.
Larry, I'm upset that this Ohio State win has caused a rift between you and I. I mean, little did I think in my life that Ohio State over Alabama.
A rip.
Come on, Larry.
It's an ass whipping, John, not a rip. A rip is out of that in the water. No,
hey, Larry, have you? Is there any way? Have you gone out and like whoop somebody playing golf to make yourself feel better?
I tell you what, Bob, once Oklahoma, I try to hustle up somebody like Andy Gump from Perrysburg. Get a grip, Andy. First time you've been able to get out here and beat your chest like Big Ten John. Woo! But
Hey, Larry, let me think. Larry, let me think for a second of the programs in the last couple of years who have been able to beat their chest. A&M was able to beat their chest, beating Alabama and Tuscaloosa. Remember that one? Auburn was able to beat their chest from beating Alabama.
Yeah,
Oklahoma was able to beat their chest. Ole Miss was able to beat their chest. And now Ohio State.
We were still there, Paul. We played for it, just like every year we played for it. And I'm not watching no championship. I'm watching wrestling tonight. And when I see big, one of them wrestlers pop one of the head, I'm going to think about Big Ten John and Andy Gump.
Apparently I'm just guilty by association, because I can't remember the last time, Larry, I was on here beating my chest for Ohio State.
Oh, you doing just on the side, slick like a Yankee. Run out that stuff real quick.
Hey, Larry, let me give you a news bulletin, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
1865, April 12th, 1865. What does that date mean to you?
That means I wasn't born.
Yeah, well, it means that was Gettysburg when Lee surrendered to Grant. I don't remember.
Hey, see, there you go. Give them Yankees another.
Well, no, my point, Larry, is that I don't think the word Yankees has been that relevant since the end of the Civil War. But you seem to want to make it part of the everyday language here.
Well, it's been relevant in my life for the last 6 months. I can tell you that.
Somebody talking foreign language on your show. Andy Gump, that last caller, what an idiot. Hey, dude, get you a grip. And I ain't from Philly, Jack. I'm from good old SEC, Alabama.
Where were you, Larry? Where were you? Were you born in Birmingham or Shelby County?
Yes, sir. Birmingham, bred, Jefferson County, Jack. I have been always true grit, son. We used to get out there and chop clay out of the old red clay road to make things with. We were poor, but brother, we were proud, just like right now. They ain't gonna knock us down. Them Yankees, I ain't watching that crap. Bunch of sissy Yankees run up down the field and listen to Big Ten John.
So you know, Larry, I take it you're not watching the game tonight?
I'm watching wrestling.
What are you going to do tonight at 7:30 Birmingham time?
Watch wrestling?
He's watching Monday Night Raw.
You're watching wrestling tonight?
Yeah. I ain't gonna watching stupid Oregon Duckaroos running around with them Buckeyes, them goofy Yankees. Man, you come on. I would cut my head off of myself if I had to watch that.
So which wrestling are you watching?
WWE, man.
WWE? Okay.
Hey, the Big Show, just like I'd like to put it on.
Who is wrestling tonight?
Well, you got Big Show, you got Randy Orton, you got John Cena. Hey, I like to put something on Andy Gump from Perrysburg, one of them RKO's. Boom! Knock him out, Jack. I wish I could get hold of him.
You think Larry wears his Speedo and his leather boots in the living room while he's watching tonight? Okay.
Well, at least I found out there is an alternative tonight other than the 19 channels ESPN is broadcasting the game on.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Dan Wolken joins us from USA Today, obviously among the cast of millions covering this event. Dan, thanks for the time. Always appreciated. And I'll start with the proverbial, what's your take on everything up until at least kickoff?
For me, anyway, it seemed like sort of a long haul. I haven't been home since right around Christmas and went out to the Rose Bowl and then up to Oregon and then down here. And but even in the bigger picture, I go back to when Alabama beat LSU for the national title down in New Orleans, and then the next day, basically, they announced that this playoff was going to happen, and ever since then, it's just been constant conversation and speculation on what it was going to look like and how it was going to go, and now we're here, and I think it's been pretty great, and I think everyone's looking forward to a interesting and competitive game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, how does the tone and tenor of this game, or will the tone and tenor of this game affect it, or is it already a success regardless of what happens tonight in Jerry's world?
I think it's already a success because, especially the way those semifinal games played out, with just the reality that if there was no playoff and we still had the BCS system, you'd have Alabama and Florida State. playing tonight. And even though that would have been an attractive matchup on paper, we now know that those were not the two best teams. And so the fact that we were able to identify on the field, head-to-head, who was better, the fact that we went through this entire season and all the conversation and all the games that were relevant to getting this playoff set as we went through the year that would not have been relevant in the BCS era, the amount of fans from across the country that were invested emotionally in the process, the television ratings in the semifinals. I don't think there's any metric you can find that would say this has not been a wild success.
As far as the build-up of the game, I mean, there are so many different aspects. What have you found? I mean, obviously you spent plenty of time in Oregon, but what have you found to be the most intriguing storyline?
You know, the more I think about it, you look at Urban Meyer, and if he's able to win the game tonight, his first 3 years at Ohio State would be 12-0, but ineligible for the title because of NCAA sanctions. You know, basically one bad fourth quarter against Michigan State from playing for the title last year, and then national championship in his third year if he's able to do it. At that point, he'd have 3. He'd have at 2 different schools. I think the gap between him and Nick Saban would be just about closed, with Ohio State going into next season as the number 1 team in the country. To me, that's the biggest storyline in this game is, can Ohio State and Urban Meyer start to really cut into that gap and become not just, you know, a great coach, but a historic one.
Yeah, so let me follow that up, because that is certainly mine as well, my most intriguing aspect. So a win tonight for Urban, I'll let you've already alluded to it, but does it put him even with Saban, behind Saban, or ahead of Saban?
I think it puts him really close. You know, probably not quite even yet, because Saban's had more sustained success longer, but Urban would be coming for him. You know, especially going into next year, Ohio State, regardless of what happens tonight, Ohio State's going to be number 1 in the preseason polls next year. So, you know, if you're able to win tonight, you can start to imagine, you know, a scenario where Ohio State goes on a run similar to Alabama winning 3 and 4 years. And he'd not quite be right there with Saban, but he'd be on almost the same tier, and that's a pretty elite tier. I don't think there's hardly a handful of coaches in the history of the game on that tier.
And what does that mean to Saban? Because I mean, he's been caught or close to being caught, which didn't seem possible a couple of years ago. And everyone may not be buying into Urban Meyer, but those who have followed the sport closely. This is not breaking news here. It's breaking news that Urban was able to survive this season. But does it mean anything to Saban, or is his place in history already been cemented?
No, I mean, look, Alabama's not going away, and you can't take away anything that Nick Saban has done up to this point in his career. You know, it will be interesting, though, if you look at it as we go further into this era of the playoff. I do think that Saban probably would help his legacy to win one in this format, because this is a tougher format to win one. You've got to win 2 games against great teams instead of, you know, just that one bowl game. And, you know, now we will have a set of data from this era, and we'll interpret, you know, what that means in terms of coaches. But, you know, for Ohio State to come in, if they were able to win this as a number 4 seed, essentially, and beat the top 2 teams in the country, I mean, that's a coaching feat that is extremely impressive. And as we go forward, I think, you know, the coaching aspect of winning 2 straight games against great teams is going to be of significant value. And, you know, look, Saban's place in history is secure, but, you know, Ohio State is setting up for a very, very interesting run here.
Dan, Danny Sheridan was on here the other night, and he made some very stinging comments, as others have, in relation to the shape that Urban Meyer left Florida. It's been hashed out. Certainly, Will Muschamp has come and gone, but does that impact his state at all? The fact that he really almost blew that place up on the way out of town.
Well, he got out at the right time. I mean, there's no question. You know, it certainly could have left a much bigger mark on his reputation if he had stayed and they had been sort of a 7-5 type of program. But certainly mistakes were made. The off-field stuff has been well chronicled, and that's certainly something that, the Urban Meyer detractors, that you haven't heard a lot about it this week, because it's all been pretty positive about, Ohio State and the things that they do off the field. But I remember going into Big Ten Media Days 2 summers ago, and Urban was taking a lot of heat. The Aaron Hernandez stuff had just came out, and there was with Carlos Hyde the issue in the bar in Columbus, and Urban, in terms of how he approaches off-field stuff, was being criticized pretty heavily. They have seemed to turn that around a little bit. You haven't heard as much stuff about Ohio State guys getting in trouble off the field. Certainly, the way Florida, the state of that program is a mark on him. But when you start stacking up championships, people forget about that stuff pretty quickly.
Let me ask you about a story you had earlier about the President Obama talking later this week with college football leaders. What exactly is going to happen, and what does it mean?
Well, the NCAA convention is going to take place later this week in Washington, D.C., where they're going to vote on officially on the autonomy and start the ball rolling toward the Power Five making their own rules officially, and the cost of attendance and all that stuff. It's sort of a tangent to what's going to happen at the convention. A group of people, athletic directors, people from the NCAA, are going to be meeting with the Obama administration, certainly Arnie Duncan, the Secretary of Education. I'm not sure exactly who else is going to be involved, but the politicians have started to chime in on the state of college sports, what's happening with athletes' rights, and the NCAA's sort of apparent inability to move quickly to address these concerns. Now, this is purely my speculation, but I sort of wonder if they're trying to lay the groundwork to get an antitrust exemption and maybe head off a lot of these lawsuits and things that have been coming at them. But I'm also told that the conference commissioners are going to form what they call a coalition to save college sports. Now, I don't know how much college sports needs saving, Paul, but especially when I see an event like this and all the money it generates. But there certainly are in some shaky times in terms of the financial impact of all this stuff and the lawsuits that are swirling. So I think they're going to try to assure the administration that they've got this under control and that they're moving in the right direction on a lot of issues. And it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. I wasn't able to get a ton of specific information. This was sort of supposed to be a top secret thing, but there's no doubt in the coming days we'll hear more about exactly what they talked about and where it goes from here.
Thank you very much, Dan. Enjoy it, and we'll talk very soon.
Thanks, Paul.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Matt Millen, the great analyst and, of course, former star at Penn State and in the NFL and a general manager as well, joins us. Matt, thanks for the time. And like everyone, we've been talking about this game. When it finally gets underway in 3 hours and 14 minutes, what will you be looking for the most?
I'll be looking to see how they handle Ohio State's offense and defensive lines. And to me, I think they're a physical group, and I think they're a physically stronger group than what Oregon has. But Oregon offsets that with what they do schematically. So I'll be looking to see how that's handled inside, because to me that's where the game's really going to be won or lost.
I remember seeing you not long after the championship games, the conference championship games, and I said, so what do you make out of Ohio State? And you said something, and I agreed, and I took that feeling all the way until the second half of the semifinal game. It was hard for many people to believe in Cardell Jones. He obviously showed us a lot in New Orleans.
Yeah, he did. He showed a lot. He showed a lot at the Wisconsin game, but we just saw a glimpse, and was it enough to be able to carry it through, into the playoffs? And the answer there was yes. But, the key to Cardale Jones is the rest of that offensive line. They've been protecting him. They've been running the football. They've been opening holes. And that allows Cardale Jones to be able to use the play-action game effectively. And then also it allows them to be able to go downfield when they max protect and have Smith on the outside to be able to get big stuff. So to me, still the whole key, while Cardale Jones has shown well, that offensive line to me, and Ed Warner is their offensive line coach. To me, he's done a masterful job.
Matt, on the other side, everyone loves Marcus Mariota, except maybe NFL GMs and draft experts. I've seen some reasonably unflattering things said about him. You've been a GM in the NFL. What do you think of his ability?
Well, I think he's got great skills, but I also think that you have to temper it with the scheme. And so if you go back and look at it and say, okay, what exactly are we measuring here? Are we going to look and measure his ability to be able to sit in the pocket and go through the reads? And you don't see that very often. What you see is the ball comes out fast. It's basically long handoffs, a lot of quick screens, spot throws. 1, 2. They don't even take 1, 2, 3 and throw. It's just the ball's up and boom, you come out because they enhance it with pace. Now, that's not Marcus Mariota's fault. What you have to be able to do is drill down a little deeper and say, let's look at his accuracy. Let's look at his accuracy when he is in the pocket. Look at his accuracy when he's on the run. Can he throw on the run? How much of the run game are you going to incorporate in the next level? The answer really is not very much. But what you do see is his ability to keep his eyes down the field when he's running, and that to me is something you can bank on. And I think Marcus Mariota does translate to the next level very well.
Matt, so many issues have faced both teams. We've talked about Cardell Jones and how they recover from that, but and everyone knows the number of players Oregon has lost both 2-3 weeks ago and even recently. What effect, if any, does that have on the Ducks tonight?
Well, you'd be lying to say that it wouldn't have any effect. It has to have some effect. But having said that, it still comes down to, pace. You're going to have to, before you get to personnel, you have to handle pace. And before you handle pace, you have to be able to say, okay, this is our plan. This is what we're sticking to. Can we communicate it effectively? And then you say, okay, how do we handle the guys that they have running that pace against us? Now, Carrington's out. You're still going to have Lowe. You're still going to have people out there who can make plays. Stanton's going to be available. So there are guys who can make plays, and they'll certainly find them. What you really see is when guys get tired and that pace becomes a part of the game. And usually, teams have hung with them for a half and then sometimes into the third quarter, but rarely past that time. That's when, it doesn't matter who's open, Mariota's going to find them, and he'll make the throw.
We'll end with a couple of NFL questions since this game is being played in the home of the Cowboys. As you were watching yesterday, what did you think the right call was on the Dez Bryant catch?
Yeah, that's that one that they're just going to maul the rule on it. And Jim DeOpolis, I heard Jim talk about it. I heard all the officials weigh in on it, and they're right. At the letter of the law, that is the right call. Now, having said that, Dez Bryant caught that ball, even had the wherewithal to change over to his left hand and then extend with his left hand. To me, for you're sitting at home, you're like, that's a great catch. He even tried to score at the end, and it bounced out, and of course he recovered. But the rule says what it says. And if you don't have control all the way through the catch, they're going to rule it incomplete. You have to have a rule. That's the rule. You have to enforce it.
And by the way, we just learned that John Fox is leaving the Denver Broncos.
Interesting.
Not a big, well, maybe a big surprise. Speaking of the Broncos, though, what do you think happens now with Peyton Manning?
Well, nobody is harder on themselves than Peyton Manning. Nobody knows themselves, and nobody knows Peyton as well as himself. So Peyton's going to have to do a little bit of soul searching here. There's some factors there that we don't know, that we're not privy to. Look. The fact that Peyton set the records he did a year ago with the way his body is and what it went through, and I know a little bit more just in terms of what happened to him physically, is just absolutely astonishing that he was able to do what he did. And now, we know that he's got a torn quad and he tried to play. All those things affect you. Now, having said that, he'll still have a great desire to play. He's a tremendous competitor. But he'll have to sit down and say, am I still the same guy? And if I'm not, what percentage of that guy am I, and is that good enough? And I will trust Peyton Manning to be able to make the right call on that.
You spent 12 years in the NFL. You ended up being in the front office. You've also been a commentator. If Peyton called you and said, of those two, which one would you recommend? What would Matt Millen tell him?
I'd tell him to coach. That's what I'd tell him to do right now. I would tell, and I don't think he's going to want to do that, but Peyton has a phenomenal mind. He's got a mind that's a great asset. He sees things differently. He sees things slowly. He sees things that other guys don't see. He's been around the game, and it's an evolving game. He's evolved with it. I just think if that Peyton Manning, if he would want to be able to give back to the game immediately, it would be in the coaching ranks. And there's time for the other stuff. You can always GM later. You can always own later. You can do all those things. But what he has as an asset, very few people possess.
How difficult, or would it be difficult for him to find work as a coach in the NFL or anywhere else for that matter?
Oh, about maybe 10, 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
The prevailing thought, Paul, right now is that essentially he is a de facto offensive coordinator. He works extremely well with Adam Gase. I think Adam Gase is a very good young offensive mind. It'll be interesting to see what Denver does there. They're going to have Jack Del Rio in-house, and they're going to have Adam Gase in-house. Jack, of course, has had head coaching experience, and there's something to be said for that. But Adam is a really, really sharp young mind. He's got a good offensive mind. He just lacks the experience of being a head coach, but he'll get it.
Great stuff. Matt, thank you for the time. It's always fun.
Always good to talk to you, Paul. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the game tonight.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Donna is up next. Hey, Donna.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Quick comment. I have been listening to your show first year on TV,
Wonderful.
And since you're winding down, I just wanted to make one comment. Tammy from wherever, south of Birmingham, she is a disgrace to this beautiful state of Alabama as well as Auburn University. I know a lot of people from D.C. area to West Coast who listen and watch your show. And by the way, it's a great show.
Thank you.
But they cannot understand whatever she is opining about when you let her on the talk show. Most believe the Tammy of Alabama represents the rest of the state. Tammy, relax. R-E-L-A.
Well, thanks, Don. And by the way, I want to pick up something Donna said. I was out yesterday, and a guy walked up to me and said, well, so what do you do now until the next football season with an eye to tonight being the final night of the year? And I said, I was a little taken. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, do you work? I said, it's a good question, actually. My point is, a lot of people who are new to our show, and there are many of you out there, particularly those on watching on television, and many who are new to us on radio. The show continues. It's a year-round show. It's a daily talk show. It's not a show specifically designed to the college football season. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. We will be on tomorrow, win or lose. Let's continue. Diane is in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Hey, Diane.
Hi, honey. How are you?
Oh, I am doing great.
Love your ears. But I'm just saying, it's just a game. It's just a game. I don't know why everybody is so gung-ho about what happened.
Diane, do you follow sports at all?
I absolutely do. Only Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I love that. I saw you on TV right now. Okay, do the other ear. No, actually, you play with Tammy and all these girls.
Is
it's
there
about a game.
Is there anything else?
What do you think is going to happen, Oregon or Ohio State?
I think Oregon.
Oregon. But I love you. I met you. I taught you 4 years ago.
When we physically met?
No. Oh, you're so funny. 4 years ago, I called you up. It got me through awful times. But John Paul, he's so hot.
Oh. You got to step aside over there.
But I'm watching you on TV right now, but I thank you for letting me go through.
Where did my cigarettes go? Anybody,
I know,
Virginia Slim.
But anyway, Tammy and the other girl, you got to get them off there.
Okay. Well, how are you planning on spending the evening tonight? Watching the game, I suppose?
I'm having tonight with my husband.
Oh.
After we watch the game, because Oregon's going to kick out.
But Diane, you know the game will be over about midnight. That's that's pretty late, isn't it? Is she gone?
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, Diane, let me.
Your show.
Okay.
I love your show.
Okay.
And thank you for putting this on the air.
Well, thank you, Diane, and thank you for enlightening me and the audience on what you plan on doing tonight. Is this like Monday Night Football? Is it once a week or what? Okay. The control room is.
That's one way you can describe it.
Just call me. I mean, I'm not sure the audience even heard what you said, but you can imagine. Diane, thank you very much, and enjoy the evening. Veronica, we're really on our roll tonight with women, aren't we? Veronica is in Arkansas. Hey, Veronica.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
I've just got a comment to Larry, the gentleman that called earlier and was yanking this and yanking that. It doesn't matter where you come from in this world. We're all of one race, the human race, and he needs to do the rest of us a favor, pull his bottom lip up over his head and swallow. That's first. Second of all,
well, hold on. What did you mean by that?
For him to take his bottom lip and pull it over his head and swallow. Means he can swallow his ass. Do the world a favor. Oregon has played a tougher strength of schedule than Ohio. Both teams are good. Don't get me wrong. But I'm for the Ducks.
Yeah.
The Ducks are a harder team to play. They're fast-paced. And it also depends on the regions that they're going to be playing in a cold climate or a warm climate, depending on how these boys are going to play.
Mm-hmm.
That has a factor in.
Yeah, it always does.
And as far as the NFL call the other day with Dallas and Green Bay, I think Green Bay was robbed. Honestly, do. It just wasn't right. But I'm Ducks all the way. But Larry just needs to get a grip and quit yanking this and yanking that to everybody. And that's all I got to say.
Well, yeah, you got it. Thanks. Have a good night, if it's possible.
I'll tell you what, if you get Larry drunk enough, he may try that.
I hope Larry calls back. But Gary is in Kentucky. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening, Paul. First-time caller. Heard a lot about you, and I'm glad that you're on the air on the SEC Network, and we watch you.
Thank you.
One point I'll make before I get to my main subject here. The SEC East won all their bowl games this year. The West only won 2. So when they start SEC Media Days next year, that might be something they want to remember. Now, and here's the thing. My main thing I want to talk about is the Kentucky-Texas A&M game. Their players were wearing shirts, T-shirts that said heart over hype, a direct, blatant insult intentionally directed at our team. Now, here's the thing. In Kentucky, we don't create the hype. We simply live up to it. 50% of the time when we're in a national championship game, we win. We've won more games than anybody. And after the NCAA does what it needs to do to North Carolina, we'll be in that 2,000 win club all by ourselves when they get that mess straightened out. But they wore those shirts. They insulted our program. People are jealous. They can't admit that we are the kings of basketball in this conference and one of the best in the nation. And we welcomed Missouri A&M into our conference with open arms, and they've done great. And I'm proud of them. But for them to do this blatantly and intentionally,
yeah, no,
nobody,
well, Gary,
Mitch Barhart has not said give us an apology. Coach Cal's not said give us an apology.
You know
Somebody needs to demand that they show respect and apologize to us.
Gary, are you familiar with something called the First Amendment, freedom of expression?
Well, I'm not knocking that.
Is it not applicable to the University of Kentucky basketball program?
Well, I've never seen us wear shirts intentionally designed to insult the other team.
You don't have to because you're Kentucky. I mean, I would be more concerned as a Kentucky fan why the last 2 games have gone into overtime than what some student is wearing.
No, these were athletes. These were players on the bench.
Okay.
Actual players. I mean, free speech is fine,
hey,
but
Gary,
don't you
do
think
me a favor. Get over it, okay? It doesn't. I mean, I watched the game, didn't even notice it, but obviously you did. Has much been made out of it in Lexington?
Not that I'm aware of. Apparently, they don't care.
No. Why should someone care?
Well, I mean, it's just a simple matter of respect.
And what did the shirts say again? Heart
over hype. In other words, their heart was going to overcome us.
Well, they played a pretty good basketball game. They took the University of Kentucky in overtime without one of their top players.
They did well.
I thought they did really well. So if a T-shirt can inspire them, big deal.
Well, I wasn't trying to, offend anybody or something. I'm just saying.
No, Gary, it's a legitimate conversation. It's okay to have this conversation, but I don't know. Are you offended by it?
No, I saw the warm-ups during the game as well, Gary, and I think you're making a little something out of nothing. Just a
now, Gary, let me put it this way. I mean, I would have been offended had they insulted Alabama. Squirrel is up next. How are you, Squirrel?
That's great. Bama is playing Oregon for the championship tonight.
Yeah, Bama. There has to be some recognition of Alabama's 15 national championships tonight in Dallas, doesn't there?
That has to account for something. I keep thinking somebody's going to step in and, make some sanity of it.
I think Alabama should claim this with an asterisk saying, if it had been the old BCS, we would have gotten in and beaten Florida State. So we should claim this as much as the 1941 national championship when we came in third in the SEC.
There you go. So it sounds good to me. Let's do it. Did this last woman, Diane, did she say you were hot? Is that what I heard?
I think that's what she said.
Oh, my God. I mean, what is it with these women?
I just have to disagree with that.
Well, what is it with these women that are calling?
I don't know.
Just throwing themselves at you over the radio. I mean, they want to meet you at airports. They want to play with your ears.
I don't know. Larry, you've met me. We met that night in Mississippi. What do you think it is?
Well, I personally witnessed it there at the book signing. I mean, you could have charged some women with sexual assault. I mean, they were just throwing themselves at you, especially that one that launched herself into your lap when you were looking at the left.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and I frankly have been somewhat oblivious to. You pointed out a couple of times this year, John.
It's a squirrel. It's unbelievable. You think, I'm going to travel to the Southeast, a young man hanging out with Finebaum here. I'm going to get to pick off all these the women hanging around Paul, and my goodness, I didn't have a shot hanging with this guy.
I think there's such an emphasis on youth today, Squirrel, on the Jesse Palmers of the world and the Tebows. That I think I'm about to stand up for the forgotten generation. I mean, I didn't grow up as the greatest generation, that's for sure. Nobody that grew up in the 60s and 70s did. But I think there's hope for those of us who are slowly aging.
Like me. Yeah, people like you and me. Yeah, did the lady the other day said she gives good fudge?
Yeah, I mean, we can tell it now, but there was a woman in there was a woman in. You want to tell the story of the woman in Atlanta that was stalking me?
Yeah, we ran into just a full, a stalker. For instance, Paul. She brought me over, said, "Hey, I want you to meet my friend." And she said, "I followed Paul for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I don't know if I was disturbed or you seemed. I mean, I
wasn't
nervous
disturbed after we have security people. ESPN employs a security company, and they are with us on the road. And the guy walked over to me Saturday morning at the Dome. He said, did you know what she said?" And I said, "No. I mean, I met her. And I'd met her a couple other times." She said, she told us that she is going to have your baby.
She's going to have your baby? Mm-hmm. Did you get a restraining order against her or anything?
And I'm now waiting for that phone call in the middle of the night.
Hey, and one other thing, all these people bashing the SEC, when is the pro draft?
It's later this year than usual, so
That's
May.
what tell to tell. I mean, let's wait till after the pro draft.
The SEC is going to come. We are going to win recruiting and the pro draft.
There you go.
Certainly, but one thing we're not going to win is the game tonight.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN Radio app.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.